This podcast contains explicit language. Hello, and welcome to 424 Recording, a podcast about home studio and lo-fi recording. We're talking all things music, especially in the punk grunge, bedroom, and indie rock genres. This is Mike from 424recording.com, and on this week's episode, I'm joined by my longtime friend, Brian Lee of Yellow Rainbow. You may remember Brian from the Coffee with Mike live stream that we did a few months back, and also recently I had an interview with him in Long Island City on the roof of his building, which was another fun interview, and this is also a great follow-up to that conversation, as well as some new topics that we're covering, and it was good to catch up with Brian. I feel like it's been a while since I talked to him, so here's my conversation with Brian Lee. Yeah, you mentioned that you're doing some sort of hard reset with your music, so tell me about this.
Well, I guess just in comparison to everything I put out before this, I want to start actually focusing even more on like field recordings and make that even more of the focus of the music I work on. Like I want to start. I guess I have done that in the past, but I want to do it. I want to do it in a sense where it's like the field recordings that I find really put the listener like in that space and in that atmosphere, and really just build the music around that. And so I'm going to more intensely go out and find like field recordings. I want to focus more. I guess the big difference also is a lot of the field recordings that I used in the past were very much like produced by human nature or just like human, like people. I used a lot of talking or just like any kind of sounds that people would make. Or I kind of want to do the opposite now and go out into like nature and find sounds that really aren't produced by people. I kind of want to I don't know. So I want to start there. And
That sounds awesome.
The other big difference too is I want to. I think you'll like this because I think you've done this and you said this before, and I want to actually start doing it. Really, just minimalize the amount of instruments I use and the instrumentation that I use. So kind of going a little more minimalistic.
Hell yeah.
Where So I'm not. So even though I'm still going to record, obviously, like in Logic or whatever DAW I might use, but I'm not going to use plugins anymore. I'm not going to use like software instruments like I have in the past. Like I always used a combination of those along with live instruments. But I really, really used a lot of like software synths and
MIDI, right?
Yeah. But yeah, MIDI. I'm still going to use MIDI, but I'm going to use more like I'm going to limit myself to just like a few tracks, and if they're going to be synth sounds, they're going to be from actual hardware like synths now.
Dope.
So I'm just going to like have a few synths that I might use, maybe some guitar. I might not even use any guitar. Not even sure at this point yet. It's going to be. Maybe I should leave it there. Maybe I don't want to say too much.
Well, so I'm really curious. So what I'm thinking now when you say this is that so you'll take a trip to the desert, for instance.
Yeah.
And because you said you want to bring people to these areas where these sounds occupy, or the space that these sounds occupy. So immediately I thought you could do, or what it sounds like you would do based on that description is go into the woods, go to the desert, go to the beach, record waves, record sand, record rocks, record shells, record a hermit crab, struggling to walk across the sand. I don't know. So
yeah,
are you thinking like that insular or that kind of, or would you do something where it would be you take a sound from the desert mixed with a sound from the woods mixed with the ocean? You know what I mean? Like I wasn't sure when you say that you want to bring people into the space, whether it's a very specific space or
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a really good question. It could definitely be both. But yeah, definitely like more of a isolated, desolate place where it just seems like, well, now that the listener is listening, they feel like they are in that space, but they feel like they are completely by themselves, or they're hearing just the space that is not occupied by anyone. And it could sound 100% natural, like, oh, I'm in the middle of the forest right now, or it could feel like, oh, I feel like I'm in the forest, but I'm also at the beach, or it could just, the way you kind of combine the sounds, it could just be like, well, I'm somewhere in nature. I can't even pinpoint where I am, but I'm definitely like isolated and alone. And this is a really interesting space I'm in right now.
wow. How did you come up with this idea, or what made you want to make this shift from more of the electronic ambient music that you were doing? I think we were saying indie-tronica into like this.
Ambient indie-tronica. Well, I think it still will be sort of in that realm, but maybe a little more minimalistic, maybe a little more drone-ish. And definitely not as upbeat. Definitely still in the ambient world, and maybe a little more in the drone world as well. We'll see. We'll see. Like I said, I'm doing a hard reset right now. I'm kind of getting my thoughts together and doing some research on some new synths, and I'm really trying to avoid going down the gear acquisition syndrome path.
Yeah.
As we've spoken about before.
The rabbit hole.
Say again?
The rabbit hole.
Yeah, because I totally did that like before putting out Somewhere There's Home. And I mean, some of the stuff that I bought I used on that album, but I would probably say more than half of it I didn't.
So where can people find that album you just mentioned?
Yeah, you could find it on yellowrainbow.bandcamp.com. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on iTunes. You can find it on SoundCloud.
Cool. Yeah, just in case anybody wants to get a frame of reference, because I've had you on the channel and we've talked a lot and the live stream and stuff. So I think a lot of the, anybody who's familiar with your stuff probably knows where to find it at this point. But in case anybody new is listening and want to check out Brian's ambient stuff, just check out yellowrainbow.bandcamp.com. to get a frame of reference for what we've been chatting about. So it seems like a natural progression. I don't know, now that you say this, that your music is heading in that direction just based on what I know about the music you've been making for the past, 5 years or whatever, because you incorporated a lot of those ambient sounds and things. So what I want to know is what made you feel like you needed a hard reset, and do you feel like this is really that far off from what you have been doing in the past?
Well,
two-part question.
It's hard to say. It's hard. Yeah. I always tend to go backwards. It's hard to say if it'll actually end up so different than what I've done in the past, because I haven't even started composing it yet. But from what I'm envisioning, it will be. And I suppose that what has taken me in this direction is probably a couple of things. I mean, one, I feel like lately in my life in general, and then just the world in general, has kind of taken me more in this direction. I guess as far as my life, I feel like I need to slow down. I need to relax, and I just need to have a hard reset for my own life. So that's why I feel like my music is going to start coming out sounding like this. And I feel like I need to just spend some time away from people and away from, I don't know, like I feel like I need to just kind of almost take the time. Like, okay, so for example, like I've been trying to be more active and go to the gym, and I feel like that's good, and I need to keep going down this path. And so what kind of music do you imagine people listening to when they are like running on a treadmill or like lifting weights or something?
I'd say like hip hop, anything like upbeat, rock, rap, I don't know. I know a lot of people tend to like to listen to just pop music or any music that has like a pretty solid beat to it because I think when you listen to any music when you're doing anything, because I used to find that this at work and when I was exercising and even walking, that I think it's scientifically proven that when you listen to music when you're doing an activity like that, it makes you work harder or go faster or go further, or it kind of tunes you to a different level or your brain to another level, or I don't know, maybe just the beat or the physical nature of the sound. It just pushes you harder. So that's
Yeah,
what I would imagine. People, I don't know.
yeah. That's what I've done plenty of times. It totally works. But I've been listening to more just straight up like almost like meditative music while I'm running on a treadmill or while I'm like doing any kind of like lifting or ab workout, just to, I don't know, help me just focus and zone out and just keep going in that sense instead of something that's driving me, which is kind of weird. And I don't know, but I never thought that it would actually help me work out better, but it
Yeah, that's
somehow
super
does.
interesting.
Yeah, I know, it's really weird. And I
Because it
feel like,
sounds like you're trying to go in more of a like you said, meditative or meditation direction. Even with the music describing the music that you want to start creating, it sounds like it would be at home in some sort of retreat or yoga session, or I don't know, something that's a little bit more, you're saying like detached, you minimalist, you want to go be around less people, have some time. It almost sounds like you want to have more time to yourself. So that's super interesting that that's working for you. Well, how is it working out for you as you're working out? It sounds like it's going well.
it's good. Like, I guess where it kind of puts me in my head in comparison to like if I was listening to um, like any kind of like hard rock or metal or anything like that would kind of push me. But I don't know. This is just keeping me moving. It's like balancing me. And I feel like that's what I need right now. It's keeping
Yeah.
me balanced. It's keeping me going. It's not going to like push me to the point where it's just like, fuck, I went so hard yesterday. I don't feel like going today. It's like going to keep me going in general. And I feel like that's what I need right now. And I don't know. And I don't know.
No,
I think,
I totally get that. I mean,
yeah,
because I think in the one sense, like listening to music when you're working out, there's almost something like primal about it. Like you're saying, it's like driving you physically, but it sounds like the music that you want to listen to or that you've been listening to is driving you mentally. And it sounds like, because that's something I was saying to myself. I don't know. I was going through some things last year, and I feel like I'm constantly going through things, and I always say I want to go back to the center or come back to the center. Uh, Much like I think what you're referring to here. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but because it feels like you spread yourself out so thin in all these areas of life, and give yourself away to your time and your physical person to things that maybe you don't want to do. And it's important to have what you're saying is this hard reset or this like coming back to the center, like meditating on, I don't know.
no, yeah, I mean, that's it. I feel like I'm honestly constantly doing that in life. Like I will take my life in a certain direction, in the direction I want to go, but then it'll be like overkill. And then I need to somehow balance it out again, bring it back to
Right.
center.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's unhealthy to be like that, but it's definitely, I feel like for me at least, it's not good to, if you uh, bring it to overkill and then to just stay there. I don't think that that's healthy, but to
Oh
bring it that
yeah.
way, bring it back, I feel like that's still a healthy way to be, but I definitely need to bring it back right now. And that's what I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's I forget. I don't know, is this Shakespeare or something like "Know thyself." Coming back to the center. Well, I think the center changes too. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
and that's
No, yeah.
where
It
because it's like
definitely.
the person that you were before you go overkill in the path that you want to go on was the person that wanted to go on that path. And then once you've gone down that path far enough or hard enough, then you have a chance to look around again and say, and reassess and pivot and say, well, now has my center changed? Has who I am changed? Has where I want to go changed? So I think it makes perfect sense. I think that's just a natural progression of being a human in life. Your interests change and the things that you need to do change, the things that you want to do change. And I think that's personally where a lot of negativity and hurt can come from in my own life, is going so far down a path and not realizing that that's not the path that I want to be going down anymore. And that's exactly why. I mean, it sounds like there's a parallel there in coming back to, in recentering yourself and realizing like, okay, well, I did this for this amount of time. I tried this. I wanted to do this. Is this still what I want to keep doing? And then you can choose to keep going down that path, or as you're saying, come back to your center, come back to who you are inside of yourself, and really ask yourself those hard questions, like,
Right.
Is this what I want to be doing?
It's kind of like you said, it's like you choose a path you want to go down. You might want to bring it back to center, and you realize, like, you know what, I don't want to go down that path. Let me get out of this path altogether. Or it's like you're glad you went down that path, but now you're going down that path too far, and you just need to recenter, and you're still going down that path, but not as hard, not as far. You could bring it back to center, because, if you go down a path, I feel like too hard, at least for me, things might start falling apart.
Yeah, right. I mean, it depends. Yeah, if you just have that tunnel vision on one particular thing, I mean, I've heard some people say too, that's what it takes to really achieve something in some area of expertise, but it's not a very balanced way to live, and it's often something that, for every action there is an opposite and equal reaction, right?
Right.
The second law of thermodynamics or whatever, law of the universe. It's like, because in doing that you're shedding off other things, and you're ignoring other things that, a perfect example for me is one thing I tend to do. It's a bad habit. I don't always take care of myself that well, because I'm so focused on achieving what I want to achieve or going down the path that I want to go down, that kind of falls to the wayside, because I'm like, well, this hurts, this doesn't feel great, but I will figure this out after I have gone down this path, after I have, worked hard. I'll come back and reassess, and that's when I'll get, take care of these like health issues or something, Yeah.
I mean, that's like exactly, like pretty much everything.
Like, that's fucking bad. Like, that's not something I would recommend, but I feel like that's something a lot of people can relate to.
Well, yeah, that's like exactly. So in the last couple of years, I feel like I experienced like everything we just spoke about. Like, I pushed Galliard music so hard.
So what's Galliard music, really quick, just so.
So Galliard Music is my company for music lessons. I'm a teacher. I'm an educator. I'm a musician. I'm a composer. But Galliard Music is basically where I make all my money. And I work with mostly kids working on music. Depending on how young they are. But, I'll just teach them, basic music lessons. When I start to get older, I'll start trying to guide them down a path that they want to choose as far as what kind of music they want to learn. And, I'll give tons of listening like assignments as far as like trying to help them develop, get their ears out there and really find what kind of music they're really into. Anyway, so that's what Galliard Music is. It's just music lessons. So I pushed that really hard, maybe like, I don't know, I guess it was 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. I was working like 7 days a week, and, made a lot of money. My company grew a lot. But I feel like I pushed it to the point where it was like, I was like almost falling apart. Like I noticed, it took me like about a year of doing that to notice that like my teaching quality is not what it used to be. Like, I'm working too much, and, I'm also teaching more students, and, I'm teaching more students, sure, and more students are learning, but the quality of their lessons probably aren't as good as when I wasn't working as hard. So it was good, but I pulled it back. I'm working 5 days a week now. And at the same time, I was like, I'm going to start focusing on myself a little more. I'm going to start trying to push Yellow Rainbow a little harder. And that's what I did a lot, I guess, in 2017, last year.
Yeah, I remember talking to you about that.
Yeah, and then I put out this album earlier this year. But now it's kind of like, okay, Galliard music is still there. It's going strong. Focusing on Yellow Rainbow a little more. Went down a path that way. But now I'm bringing that back, and I'm pushing Yellow Rainbow a different way. And meanwhile, Galliard is still going up here. And yeah, during all that, I realized, like, man, like, even though 2 years ago is probably when I pushed Galliard so hard, I don't think I worked out at all like last year. So now that it's summertime, I'm like, shit, I got to start focusing on myself more, start eating better, trying to eat at home more instead of eating out constantly, and trying to go to the gym more often, just be more active, or, maybe go play basketball. And I don't know. Yeah, just focusing on myself while still trying to focus on everything else that I love, and then just balancing everything and still trying to make time for people, the people that I care about. I feel like that's always really important for me, and just balancing all of that. And that's what it always comes down to. I feel like
finding that balance. Yeah, that's something I was talking to too with Bo last week. I had Bo Beats on the podcast. He's a YouTuber and electronic musician, and that was one of the things I wanted to ask him too. And I don't know, man, work-life balance and even just leisure life balance. Because like what you're saying, I think a lot of people fall into that. I know I've fallen into that too, There's some days when I'm going hard on a project and working hard on something I'm recording or making for the channel, and I don't take a break, and I should really go for a run, go for a jog, work out, take some time to hang out with my wife and Capro, and but I just have this like really bad habit, this really one track mind, like focus on creating things and making things, and to a point where I think it's like you're saying, it's like detrimental to your physical well-being. And for you, it's like you're going to all these lessons and traveling around, and you're probably not that active. And then, like you said, you're eating fast food or food that's not made by yourself, and spending more money and probably gaining more weight just because there's all that food is anything you eat out is always loaded with, I don't know, stuff to make it taste good, which is fat and salt, unfortunately. So yeah, it's like, well, that's what we're saying, right? Every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. Like you work harder, you go harder in this direction, but then you can't exercise as more, you can't eat as well, you can't spend as much time with the people you want to spend time with. You can't make the music that you want to make personally yourself. So yeah, man, I totally get that, dude. That's something I wish I could say I had a handle on it, but I think I've gotten better. I think I've been better at pivoting into different things and moving on different paths and realizing my biggest thing, and it sounds like this is kind of your situation too, is like I don't realize when it's time to stop. I don't, I always go too far. I always take the road too far, where it's like, it sounds like a year ago is where you kind of could have let up on the reins a little bit, but it took you an extra year of just running yourself ragged to realize like, oh shit, I need to work out. I need to do stuff. I didn't exercise at all last year.
Yeah, it is kind of weird actually that even though I toned things down, it took like a year for me to be like, I need to start focusing on myself more. Like, even though I lightened up the load, it's almost just like I lightened up the load. What was I doing with all that extra time for a year?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that was when I don't know. I guess the whole balancing out process took longer than I thought because, I brought Yellow Rainbow back into the picture, but then it took me this much time to start realizing I need to exercise more and focusing on my health more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that going down that path hard is a good thing. Like sometimes, sometimes giving it that push and giving it that focus, you're gaining a lot of experience that way. And I feel like that's sometimes to gain that much experience or to get really good at something, sometimes it takes that hard of a push.
For
But
sure.
I feel like what's important, I feel like what's important is like what you're saying, like, realizing like, okay, I've pushed it to the point, this is more than enough, and I'm starting to lose a grip on reality. I need to bring it back now.
Yeah.
I need to come down to earth.
Yeah, I mean, because for me, it's I think I just have an addictive personality, and I'm like, fortunately, I'm not addicted to any substances at the moment, but I definitely get addicted to uh, going hard on working on stuff, and that's like, it's great.
Better than
But
better
at the
than
same time, yeah,
drugs. Better than hard drugs.
yeah, it's better. It's better than that, but at the same time, it's something that's hard to manage because I I know when it's too much, but I just keep hammering, and I'm not really sure why. I think I have just the desire to, because it makes me feel good, and but also and scratch the creative itch. Um, oh man, I completely forgot what I was going to say.
That's happened to me like 3 times already.
Yeah. It'll come back, but yeah, it's like just going hard, and getting addicted to that. Oh, well, and just the desire to level up, because I always had this idea that, oh, well, once I level up far enough, like I'll achieve the things I want to achieve. And that's a really unhealthy attitude because you're achieving what you want to achieve just by doing what you want to do, thinking that there's some pot of gold at the end of the rainbow when you're not realizing like this rainbow is fucking sick that I'm on. Like that's like the most detrimental thing, because I think once you get to that pot or that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, not pot like marijuana, once you get to that pot, I feel like time and time again you hear people saying like it's never what you expected it to be. It's never solves your problems. Like it's like any problems that you have, and I think that's also why it's important to go back to the center, go back to your center, because any issues that you have, like the external world is not going to solve those. Any issues that you have is an internal battle that needs to be fought and won within yourself. And I feel like after you straighten things out internally, that's when the external world starts to make more sense and become more organized around what you want. Because as much as you want to go, or I don't know, solve your problems in the external world, thinking like money is going to solve your problems, recognition is going to solve your problems, writing great songs is going to solve your problems, like that shit, none of that shit is worth anything unless your internal self is balanced. And you may not even want those things once your internal self is set or healthy. And that's something I've been struggling with and kind of realized over the course of doing the channel. And kind of why I started doing the channel was to just do something for the sake of doing it. And also, like, I just enjoy doing it, but, trying to do it for any sort of external reward, doing anything for that, I feel like is usually a sign that there's something internally that you could work on.
Right. Yeah. It's true. Like if you're just in it for the money, it's gonna like destroy you in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look at, yeah. And it's like the classic example is just look at all the people, because if all the people who achieved anything over the course of human history, were truly happy, like they probably wouldn't have even sought out to achieve those things. And also once they achieved them, they would have been, blissed out and perfect, living in a perfect life and 100% happy, and I don't know. I think that's why it's important to do what we were saying, like meditation, being alone, like asking yourself the hard questions. Like, why am I doing this? Why do I want to do this? Why do I feel like I should be doing this? Like, there's no should. It's either you want to do something or you don't. And, to try to do something to correct some past wrong that happened to you, that's never going to solve that. Like you need to go inside yourself and say like, oh, actually, like I can move past this internally because the external world is, I don't know. It's totally contingent upon how you feel internally, I think.
Right. I feel like that's what it comes down to is like your own happiness. I feel like that's what I'm trying to gain um, or get a grip on again is just like, am I really happy with everything I'm doing right now? Um, and I feel like if you're just doing one thing all the time, how could you really be happy? Like you can't just like one thing. So I feel like that's a big part of it too. Which is why I love working on music. I love working with kids and teaching, but if I'm just gonna start being super unhealthy, or if I'm like never gonna see my friends or my family again, if I'm never gonna cause I do like being around people and having somewhat of a social life. If I'm not gonna have those anymore, am I really gonna be happy in general? And I think the answer is definitely not.
Yeah. I mean, the best that you can do is what's going to make you happy right now, and just go for it. What do you want right now? And that's why I always sign off all the time on the channel with make sure you do something you want to do today.
Yeah.
And because I think in life, that's like the hardest thing to figure out, man. Is like, what do you actually want? I've seen people ruined by the fact that they just don't understand what they want or why they're going after the things that they're going after. And I think like that's the hardest thing because it's not just one, like you're saying, it can never just be one thing, and it's always a constant reassessment and assessing the path. And it makes sense to exercise and go hard for a couple of weeks, cool. And then once you're, feeling good, pivoting into something else or dialing back the exercise, etc. Like, I don't know. I think happiness is contingent upon like a constant reassessment of who you are and where you want to be, and what makes you happy now and what you want in the present. And you know, long,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's true because who you are is constantly changing, little by little.
Well, and I think that's like the whole point of what you were saying about, you went so hard down this path of working on your business, and now you've kind of achieved what you wanted to achieve and even overkill, like you're saying. And now it's time to, that was who you were and who you wanted to be. And now you've gotten there. And rather than just keep smashing that into the ground or, smashing yourself into the ground, now is the time to say, well, wait, now who am I? Now what do I want? I got
Right.
this. I got to this place. That's awesome, man. I'm super happy for you.
Yeah, thanks, man. Happy for you too, dude. I mean, everything you've done with 424 recording,
Thanks, man.
everything you've done with your music, and even just what we're talking about right now, just like the fact that we're on the same page,
Yeah.
makes me feel good. And yeah, one of your catchphrases being "do something that you want to do today." Like that makes me feel good that you feel that now, just from knowing a little bit about your past and stuff. That's something that you believe in now.
Thanks, man. It took a long time to get there.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, you got there.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. Sometimes all the things that you have to go through get you to where you are. And I didn't have that realization for a long time because it's the same thing, man. Like I was doing something for a long time that it wasn't for me, and I didn't want to be doing it, but because I felt like I needed to, or because I felt like all these external forces made me do that, or it was like what was expected of me to do.
Right.
I got to a really bad place, man, and I think that's why it's important because if you go through each day not doing anything that you want to do, you may wake up one day to realize that you're not doing anything that you want to be doing, and who are you and where are you going?
Right.
It's fucking crazy. It's not the greatest thing to wake
Yeah.
up to.
Oh yeah. It's like, yeah, it's weird to think about. Sometimes I look at people and I wonder if like, how happy they are and if they even realize, like, are they doing what they want to be doing? Are they consistently doing what they don't want to be doing? And they just don't even realize it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the true, I don't know though, because it's like ignorance is bliss sometimes, but
right.
but I think that's why like the constant thread through our whole conversation has been like, know thyself, what is it that you want? Like that's the hardest question anybody can answer. But once you can answer that question, your path becomes like the golden like Wizard of Oz,
Yellow Brick Road.
Oh, Yellow Brick Road, yeah. Cool, man. Well, dude, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your thanks for taking time out of your leisure time to come on to the pod and chat, man. This has been awesome.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks for always asking me to come on. I appreciate it every time.
So that was my conversation with Brian Lee of Yellow Rainbow. You can check out his music and hopefully some of those new field recordings he mentioned at yellowrainbow.bandcamp.com and find him on Instagram at Yellow Rainbow Music. This is Mike from 424recording.com. Godspeed, my friends. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe and review the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to support the podcast, you can check out patreon.com/424recording. Appreciate you, my friends. And make sure you do something you want to do today, okay? We'll catch you on the flip-flop. Peace.